All right. So for today, we're going to discuss about quantitative risk analysis. So there are two types, right? So we have quanti and quali. So for this particular video, we'll be talking about quantitative risk analysis. So we usually use this when we want to assess the value in terms of monetary value of the threats, eventually becoming incidents, and how much would the controls be, right? So it's not automatic that we'll have to 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 buy a particular security solution. So we need to determine if it's a good investment for the organization, and we need to help the management understand um, the necessity and the value of these investments that we are going to we're going to put into. All right. So we have already um, discussed this in the previous nugget, no? Security nugget. But for a short summary about risk analysis, so we want to identify the risk that the organization faces, and at the same time determine which among these risks are relevant to the organization. And we need to make sure that the security measures that are deployed are cost effective. So we're not just buying and buying, but in in the textbook you can, right? In theory you can, but in reality there's always a cost, and it's expensive, especially in security, right? And ensure that they are meeting the expected targets. All right. Just like any other risk analysis framework, the first thing that we need to identify would be the assets in the organization, tangible or intangible, and identify their value. The next would be determine the vulnerabilities and the threats. Right, so yeah, there's a different video for that. And then from there, after you have identified your assets, vulnerabilities, and threats, you will be able to determine the risk rating depending on qualitative or quantitative. Okay, and that will help you determine whether the threats will become a reality and disrupt the operational process. And last would be to identify the cause of an incident and the cause of a security measure. So the default formula for the risk would be threat times vulnerability. So regardless of the risk matrix that you're using, you can have um, a straightforward high, medium, low, 3 to 1, both for the threat and the vulnerability. So yeah, just multiply it, you get the risk rating. So at times you also include impact. So the impact will have the same um, the same rating. So you have high, medium, or low, or um, depending on what you are using. So it can be from a scale of 1 to 7, 1 to 5, or 1 to 3. But the important thing here is that um, it has to be consistent. It has to be well defined. Right? Okay, learning by example. So yeah, let's go to physical security. So here's an example of doing qualitative risk analysis, but at the same time, how risk is often perceived as something counterintuitive. So here's an example of an earthquake disaster risk index wherein it compares the risk of um, earthquake uh, earthquake damage targeting two different places in the United States. The number one is Boston versus number two, San Francisco. So if you ask a layman, the answer would be the the one with the higher risk um, when it comes to earthquakes would be San Francisco, because San Francisco is in California, which is near the Pacific Ocean, which is um, near the Ring of Fire. So and historically speaking, you would see a lot of um, very devastating and severe earthquakes listed in history, right? So and here it notes that there's a lot of major earthquakes since colonial times. All right. Okay. Comparing it with San Francisco, which is in the northeast of the United States, so it has actually, based on historical data, uh, there are no there there are no listed major earthquakes. Right? So yeah, so there are no major earthquakes listed here based on the historical data. Okay, but so in terms of threat, it's um, San Francisco that has the um, higher threat rating. Okay, Boston low. But if you would notice here in the second part, they're saying that because San Francisco knows that there are a lot of earthquakes happening in their area, their buildings are prepared for earthquakes. So they say that um, they have, yeah, they put what you call safety measures that are necessary to withstand earthquakes, right? Versus in Boston, because there are no earthquakes listed, a lot of their buildings are not compliant with the updated building code. So a lot of their structures were constructed before 1975. So in this case, the vulnerability of San Francisco is higher versus sorry, the vulnerability of Boston is higher versus in San Francisco, right? So with that, so you have San Francisco threat high but vulnerability low, and then you have Boston threat low but vulnerability high, right? So let's go to the next. So with this risk matrix 1 to 5, it would appear that San Francisco's threat is 4 and its vulnerability is 2. So if you multiply it, you get a risk rating of 8. And for Boston, the threat is low, so it's 2, but the vulnerability is high, so it's 4. So if you get the risk rating, both of them will have the same risk. So that's why at times they say that risk is counterintuitive, because the perception of one person may not be the total picture. You have to get the other components, such as the vulnerability and at times the impact, right? So to extend, you have threat times vulnerability times impact. So the impact is your severity of the damage or the consequences. So when the threat is able to exploit the vulnerability successfully, what is the impact? What is the consequence of that action? So that should be part of your risk formula. So let's complete the formula. No? So for example, you are in Boston, so you have threat is low but the vulnerability is high. So assuming that the building is empty, then the impact is low. But if there are people inside the building, there are assets inside, then the impact definitely would be high. So the risk would be different, or the risk rating result would be different. All right, and one of the one of the best um, reference for your risk management process is the NIST, and National Institute of Standards and Technologies uh, document number 800-30, or special publications 800-30. So it outlines all the steps for your risk management process. So from system characterization, so same, you do your inventory of assets, but they're calling it differently here, but the steps remain the same. Number two is threat identification. Number three is vulnerability identification. Number four is control analysis. And then here you determine the likelihood. Okay, and then number six, impact analysis. Seven is determining the risk. Eight is recommendation of controls. And then nine is to document the results. So it's the same. It's a good reference because it's very detailed. If you open and check the documentation, it's very long. But if you're starting from zero, you're starting from scratch, then it's a good it's a good starting point. So, and it will guide you step by step. That's why it's very long, because it's detailed on how you will do your assessment, how will you put classification to your assets, and how will you be able to identify the risk rating. All right. So now we go to quantitative risk analysis. So for quantitative, obviously, we need to provide numbers. Okay. So the first thing that we need to identify would be the loss, right? So when a security incident happens, like there's a malware um, executed in one of the machines, and it infects the machine, eventually uh, damaging the files, and user was not able to use it, which affects his or her productivity, then that that is a loss, right? Now we need to quantify it by determining how much is that incident. What is the cost of that malware infection to that machine? So the first thing that we need to do is to identify the single loss expectancy, which is the cost of a single loss, right? So when that malware hits, right, how much is that? And to be able to get that, you need to have the AV, or the asset value, and the exposure factor. So the asset value is the value of the asset you protect. It may be the cost of the tangible asset or intangible, no? The intangibles, like the files inside, okay, the productivity of that person, the reputation of the organization. That is part of the asset value. The next would be the exposure factor. So you multiply it together, and then you get the single loss expectancy, the cost of that incident. Now, let's go to the exposure factor again. So exposure factor is the percentage of the value of an asset loss due to an incident. So for instance, there's a malware, okay, there's a portion of it that is lost, no? Some of the files are lost, right? So you are going to provide a percentage of it. We call it the exposure factor. And then from there, we get the SLE. Okay. Now, after that, what do we do? Okay, we need to annualize it, right? Because of course, we need to see how frequent does this incident occur, so that we can prepare for it. No? So in a year, how much does this happen? So after we get the SLE, the single loss expectancy, we multiply it with the ARO, or the annual rate of occurrence. How many losses you suffer per year. And then with that, you will be able to get the ALE, the annualized loss expectancy, which is used to determine the annual cost of a loss due to a risk. Now, after you have computed for the ALE, or the annualized loss expectancy, you have now a value in mind. How much is this security incident affecting the organization in a year? So, with that, I can now look for a solution or a security control, security safeguard or control. We call it um, mitigating control. No? So, how do we select? No, we can't just think of we have to buy this and that. No? So apart from doing that, you can start with identifying what possible control is applicable. You now think of the cause of it. Okay, so similar with the incident, you have to think of the cost. So what is the cost of that safeguard? And here we call it the TCO. So the TCO is the total cost of ownership. Is the total cost of a mitigating safeguard. So for those looking for security tools, this is very important because when you do your budgeting, you include this. So it's the combination of the upfront cost, which is the capex, plus the annual cost of the maintenance, staff hours, vendor fees, software subscriptions, which we call the OPEX. So you add the capex and your OPEX, you get the total cost of ownership. And usually, you need to be able to analyze it also, because usually the 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 refresh cycle is 3 years. That depends on the technology, but for most organizations will have a refresh cycle of 3 years, some 5 years. So you have to make it to make the TCO per year. No? Now, after you have compute for the TCO, you can now identify the ROI, or the return on investment. Obviously, we need to see if it's worth investing on this control. So how do we identify that? So the ROI is the amount of money saved by implementing a safeguard. But is there money saved? There has to be, right? Otherwise, it's not a good investment. So the general rule is, if the TCO, or the total cost of ownership, is less than your ALE, then it is a good investment. Otherwise, if the TCO is greater than the ALE, then it is a poor investment. All right, so let's do a sample scenario, okay, and apply ALE and TCO, no, and let's compute for the ROI. So assume your company has 1,000 laptops that contain personally identifiable information, or PII. You are the security officer and you are concerned about the risk of exposure of PII due to lost or stolen laptops. You would like to purchase and deploy a laptop encryption solution, and the solution obviously is expensive, so you need to convince your management that the solution is worthwhile. All right, let's go to the asset value. The asset value is the first thing that we need to identify, right? So each laptop costs, so it's the actual physical laptop costs $2,500. Okay, that's the listed price. But the real value is, obviously, we're talking about InfoSec, it's the information inside the laptop, which is the PII. Now, the theft of encrypted and encrypted PII has occurred previously and has cost the company many times the value of the laptop in regulatory fines, bad publicity, legal fees, staff hours spent investigating, etc. The true average asset value of a laptop with PII for this example is $25,000. $2,500 for the hardware and $22,500 for the exposed PII. Now, in the case of a stolen laptop with an encrypted PII, the exposure factor is 100%. Obviously, because when when the laptop is stolen, then everything is gone, right? So that is 100%. So the SLE here is the asset value, 25,000, which is the combination of the laptop and the PII times exposure factor of 100% is 25,000. So 25,000 times 1 is 25,000. That's the SLE. Now let's continue. Looking through past events, you discover that you have suffered 11 lost or stolen laptops per year. On average, your ARO or the annual rate of occurrence is 11. Okay, so that is your historical data. You have that. So, in our case, the ALE or the annualized loss expectancy, it it is going to be $25,000 SLE times 11 ARO, which is equal to 275,000 USD. That is the total cost of loss in stolen laptops. Now, let's go to the TCO. Using our laptop encryption example, the upfront cost of laptop encryption software is $100 per laptop or 100,000 for 1,000 laptops. The vendor charges a 10% annual support fee or $10,000 per year. You estimate that it will take 4 staff hours per laptop to install the software or 4,000 staff hours. The staff that will perform this work makes $50 per hour plus benefits. Including the benefits, the staff cost per hour is $70 times 4,000 hours, that is $280,000. And then again, you have your company that uses a 3-year technology refresh cycle. Then from there, we can calculate the cost or the TCO over the 3 years. No? So once you compute all of it, it's good for 3 years. That means. So we now go to the software cost. So we itemize it one by one. Okay, so 100,000, 10,000 for the software cost is 100,000. The vendor support is $30,000. Hourly staff cost 280,000, and then you sum it up, you get $410,000 TCO over the 3 years. But again, you have to annualize it. So how much is the cost per year? So you divide it by 3, you get 136,667 per year. Right? Okay. Now, with this information, we can now compute for the ROI. So, the table on the left is the annualized loss expectancy of an encrypted laptop. So, before implementing the solution, the ALE or the ALE is 275,000, okay, dollars. Now, on the right table, you will see that the ALE or the annualized loss expectancy of encrypted laptops lessened. So from 275,000, it became 27,500. What changed? It's the exposure factor. So from 100%, it became 10%. So from the stolen laptop plus the PII, it became just the laptop. And the cost of the laptop is very minimal compared to the PII. So it's 10%. So, how do we compute for the ROI? You compute for the ROI by subtracting the following. So, you have your old ALE, which is 275,000, you minus the new ALE, which is the 27,500, minus the investment. So, the investment is 136,667. So, you subtract it from the old ALE. So, the ROI now is 110,833. So that's it, no? Okay. So the laptop encryption project has a positive ROI and is considered to be a wise investment. Okay. All right. Let's have another example. Your company sells Apple iPad. So our reference here is old. The book is or the book was published in 2010. That's why it's still Apple iPads. So your company sells Apple iPads online and has suffered many DOS attacks. Your company makes an average of 20,000 profit and a typical DOS attack lowers sales by 40%. You suffer 7 DOS attacks on average per year. A DOS mitigation service is available, okay, for a subscription fee of $10,000 a month. You have tested this service and believe it will mitigate the attacks. Alright, so that's the scenario. So you have your 20,000 profit. So I think what is 20,000 here? 20,000 would be your asset value, right? 40% is your exposure factor. Right? And then 7 DOS attacks on average per year is your ARO or annual rate of occurrence. Right? And then a DOS mitigation service of 10,000 a month is your control. Okay, so these are the values. So we can now compute. Huh? All right, let's go to the next slide. So what is the annual rate of occurrence in the above scenario? So the answer is very clear. I'll give you 5 seconds to think about it. It's all right. So the answer here is letter C, 7. So that is the arrow. All right, let's go to the next question. Now, what is the annualized loss expectancy or ALE of lost iPad sales due to the DOS attacks? So, I'll give you 20 seconds to think about it and compute in your head. Mm. All right. So, let's compute now. So the first thing that we need to identify would be your asset value, and based on the given, the asset value is $20,000, right? And then we also know the exposure factor. It's given in the problem, which is 40%. So we can now compute for the SLE. So the formula of SLE is AV times EF, or asset value times EF. So here the SLE is 20,000 times zero point 0.4 is 8,000. Now, we compute for the ALE by multiplying the arrow. No? So, in the problem, the given is 7. So, you multiply the SLE times the arrow to get the ALE. So, the answer here is 8,000 times 7 is $56,000. So, the answer is letter D. Okay. Now, question number 3. Is the DOS mitigation service a good investment? A, yes, it will pay for itself. B, yes, 10,000 is less than 56,000 ALE. Letter C is no, the annual total cost of ownership is higher than the annualized loss expectancy. D, no, the annual total cost of ownership is lower than the annualized loss expectancy. So I'll give you 20 seconds to think about it and compute it in your head. All right. So to determine whether it's a good investment, we need to get the or compute for the TCO. So the TCO here is $10,000 per month. So that's per month. So we have to annualize it. So times 12, it will be $120,000 per year. So if that's the case, your TC is 120,000, and in question number 2, we computed the ALE, and the ALE is 56,000. Obviously, the 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 TCO is very very high, versus the ALE. So the answer here is letter C. No, the annual total cost of ownership is higher than the annualized loss expectancy. All right, let's go now to your activity. So the activity here is conducting your risk assessment for a fictional company called Company BA. All right. So the background of Company BA. Company BA, the nature of the business is a storage facility of non-perishable goods. Its location, so we're in, the setting is in the Philippines. It's in Evangelista Street, Makati City. Okay, with 3,000 square meters owned. Number of employees 250. Type of employees, you have your admin, operations, and delivery. Okay, operations is Follow the Sun, which is 9 a.m. to 6 p.m. Their clients are convenience stores, malls, manufacturing companies. Now, the issues include the near gas leak, heavy traffic during operation, hours, floods during heavy rains, goods not properly secured. Some are stolen from time to time. Now, we already did a qualitative risk analysis in the previous exercise. So, now we go to the quanti. Now, for this activity, let's go to the next slide. So some of the news here include that there's a gas leak in the area that there's a gas leak in the Makati condominium. That's near the area because it's in ang Evangelista Makati. It reaches critical level, and then you have heavy traffic. Okay. Typical in the Philippines, but there's a special case there in the Evangelista area during rush hour. So there. Now, for this exercise, you already have um, your threats given. So the threats identified during qualitative have been identified. So let's go to the next. So these are the top 3 threats that have been identified: explosion, flood, and theft. And then you have your SLE computed, exposure factor, and your arrow. So these things are already provided to you. Okay. And then the controls per each threat have been identified also. So for threat 1 of explosion, these are the controls that have been identified and recommended for your review. So for explosion, you have fire suppression system, you have your transfer facility or fixed leak. Okay, and you will see the adjustments in the exposure factor. Okay, right? And then the flood, you have your flood guards, you transfer to another facility or upgrade the building. And then the third one is theft. Okay, for your for the threat of theft, you have the controls such as additional guards, transfer facility, or improve the building security. Now, with these threats and suggested controls, your goal in this activity is to be able to identify which among the controls provided would be the best option. So best option meaning it will yield the 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 highest ROI. So you have to compute for the ROI. So I'll provide the instructions um, in the next slide. So instructions, you compute for the ROI of each control provided and identify which is the best option. Right? So you have to show your solution in the spreadsheet. You can use formula if you want, okay, just to automate some of the computation. Okay, so answer the questions that follow in the LMS. If you're in the LMS portal, assessment section or assignment section, and upload the spreadsheet containing the solution. Okay? So then if you have any questions, please feel free to let me know.